Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha with Ice Cream Fitness here. And today I want to talk to you guys a little bit about the best lift for any given muscle. But hold on, let me give you guys a bicep shot first. Okay, that seems to be one of the most commonly asked questions that I get, and I think most YouTube channels get, and one of the most common questions that people ask online in the training world, particularly in the bodybuilding world, because this doesn't apply so much to sports performance, fitness, athleticism, strength athletes, things like that. So when we're talking about physique development, people will ask, what is the best lift for any given muscle? And the truth is, there is no best lift. There's not even a best lift for any one person. And in fact, when you look at pro bodybuilders of different eras, you will find that at any given Mr. Olympia lineup throughout the decades, you'll find guys up there who, for their chest, for example, feel that the decline bench is the best. Another who feels a flat bench is the best. And another who use the incline bench almost exclusively as their main lift. Another who use dips to build their pecs up. And all of them will have fantastic chest development. And it's the same with biceps. You go talk to a number of bodybuilders, whether they're enhanced, natural, or otherwise, with good biceps. And sometimes even with huge biceps. I've even known natural guys with huge biceps who were legitimately natural, who I was surprised by what their choice of lifts were. And you'll hear everything from one guy saying that straight bar curls, another will tell you easy bar curls, another concentration curls, and another will tell you that weighted chin-ups are the secret to his phenomenal bicep development. And the truth is, every one of them are right, and it's not even a case of it's right for that person, because yes, everyone is different, but we are not that different. Our muscles still perform the same function in any given person. Unless you have a major deformity, your pecs perform the same function as every other guy in your gym's pecs do. Same with your biceps. Basic human physiology. So something that you have to consider there is that generally if someone cannot develop a very good muscle off of a lift that a number of other people who have that body part well developed, who swear by it, is generally their execution of it. If they're able to take any lift that uses a body part as the primary mover, and they're not able to get development out of it, but they switch to a different lift and it starts growing, then it is clearly their execution or the methodology that they're using to train that body part with that lift that is the problem. It's not the lift itself. And it's almost always that case. So if you can grow off of dips but not the bench press for your pecs, then you don't know how to bench press 95% of the time. That is actually the problem. The problem is not your anatomy in the bench press. So what we need to look at is, why is that? And why does it not matter so much as people seem to think it does? Because at the end of the day, yes, you're going to have lifts that hit certain heads of a muscle more than others. Yeah, you're going to have lifts that hit the pectoralis minor more than they hit the pectoralis major, and vice versa. So upper versus lower chest, or things like with your triceps, this long head back here. Yeah, it has a different function from the other two heads, so you can't always fully recruit all of the fibers in it with certain lifts. But outside of that, when it comes to overall development, as long as a muscle is the given primary mover, there's not going to be more than about 10%, maybe 15% difference in the activation at the most extreme. And while that might seem really significant, people are going, wow, I mean, that's 10% or 15% more growth. No, that's not true. That's off of maybe a single rep or a single set. But nobody trains that way. We all train with multiple sets when we're trying to grow, or get stronger for that matter. And what you're going to find is that there is a limited amount of muscle growth that you can stimulate in a 24-hour period. And we know that people not on drugs, you only grow for 48 hours at the absolute most after you train a muscle. So the amount of stimulation that you stimulate in that window is what's going to matter in terms of how much you grow. And there is a finite amount. Otherwise, you could come in and do 500 sets of curls every time you train biceps, and your biceps would get much, much bigger than the guy who only did 50 sets. But it doesn't work that way. There is a limited amount of growth that you can stimulate. And every time you do a set, even if a lift is slightly less efficient at recruiting fibers in that muscle, you make more inroads closer to that upper limit, and there's a diminished return every time. So what you're going to find when you get to that 5th or 6th or 8th set of a given lift, it almost doesn't matter anymore how efficient one was versus the other. You're not going to see a measurable difference in the amount of total muscle growth stimulated in terms of fibers exhausted, metabolic fatigue induced, things like that. It's just not going to matter. Once you start getting into multiple sets and you start inducing a fair amount of workload on the muscle, it's simply not going to matter. Now, your individual execution of it might, because you may not be effectively utilizing that muscle. But as long as you are effectively utilizing that muscle and putting a fair amount of tension on it, it's going to become less important. And it's even true for things like that long head of that tricep. Even though it doesn't get fully activated doing, say, a regular press down where you only move the elbows. But if you were to do enough sets of them, even that third head there, the one that gets the least stimulation, you would still give it the most amount of growth that it could achieve if you did enough workload, even with a lift that doesn't necessarily recruit that head ideally. Now, that's not necessarily the best way to do it because you waste a lot of time. You put more wear and tear on your body, you cut into your recovery ability, but you can still do it with a lift that doesn't hit that head as efficiently through sheer amounts of workload and volume. So even then, that doesn't even determine that that head won't necessarily grow. It's just that I think you would be better off putting some actual sets into recruiting a head that's not being recruited efficiently. So at the end of the day, what it comes down to is there actually isn't, for all practical purposes, for all real world purposes, no matter what we can show on paper when we do studies on these things, there is actually no one lift that is the best for any given muscle group, even for the individual person. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it has been informative, and I will talk to you next time.